Good evening. Stop believing the dangerous myth that losing your memory is just a normal part of getting older. What if I told you that those frustrating moments of forgetting names or misplacing your keys aren't because of your age, but because you are literally starving your brain exactly when it needs nutrition the most, right before you sleep? Tonight we are going to change that. I'm going to reveal 5 powerful foods sitting in your kitchen right now that can rebuild your memory circuits and grow new neural connections overnight. And stay with me, because the number one food on this list is something most people over 60 are strictly told to avoid at all costs. Let's dive in. For years, we've been conditioned to accept that mental decline is just an inevitable part of the aging process. We laugh it off as having a senior moment, but cutting-edge neuroscience tells a completely different story. During the day, your brain is like a highly congested highway, accumulating microscopic damage and metabolic waste. When you finally close your eyes to sleep, your brain's glymphatic system, its natural cleaning crew, is supposed to go to work repairing synapses and flushing out toxins. Here is the problem. If you don't provide your body with the exact nutritional building blocks before bed, that maintenance crew has absolutely no tools to work with. You wake up with brain fog, struggling to recall simple details, not because you're old, but because your brain was malnourished during its most critical healing window. I've seen this exact scenario play out countless times. I had a client, a brilliant retired teacher, who came to me terrified that she was losing her independence because she couldn't remember her grandchildren's birthdays anymore. Once we adjusted her evening nutritional protocol, the transformation was nothing short of miraculous. It felt like a light switch had been flipped back on. Of course, before we get into our countdown, please remember that I am sharing educational information. While these are natural foods, you should always consult with your primary care doctor before making significant dietary changes, especially if you are managing existing health conditions or taking medications. Are you ready to feed your brain what it's been begging for? Let's start with number 5, a simple, delicious drink that specifically targets age-related neuroinflammation. Coming in at number 5 is a simple, vibrantly colored beverage that researchers are now realizing is a literal liquid sleep aid for the aging brain: tart cherry juice. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't fruit juice just packed with sugar that will keep me awake? That is a very valid concern, which is exactly why the type of juice you choose is absolutely critical. We are talking specifically about pure, unsweetened Montmorency tart cherry juice. Do you ever wake up feeling like your brain is wading through thick mud, unable to grasp a thought you just had a moment ago? That sensation is frequently caused by neuroinflammation. Think of it as a low-grade, chronic swelling inside the brain itself that acts like a roadblock, disrupting how your neurons communicate. As we pass our 60s, our body's natural production of melatonin drops dramatically. This means we get less of the deep, slow-wave sleep required for the brain to clear out this inflammatory roadblock. Here is where tart cherry juice steps in to do its heavy lifting. It contains one of the highest concentrations of naturally occurring melatonin found in any food on Earth. But it goes a step further. It is also packed with anthocyanins, powerful anti-inflammatory compounds that are actually able to cross the blood-brain barrier. While the melatonin helps you fall into a deep sleep, the anthocyanins get to work putting out the inflammatory fires damaging your memory circuits. The results are not just anecdotal, they are measurable. Studies have demonstrated that older adults who drank pure tart cherry juice experienced a remarkable 24% improvement in sleep efficiency, alongside significantly better scores on episodic memory tests. They were remembering names, faces, and events with much greater clarity. However, I must give you a very stern warning right here. If you go to the store and buy a generic cherry drink loaded with added sugars or high fructose corn syrup, you will achieve the exact opposite effect. The artificial sugar spike will trigger massive inflammation and completely destroy your sleep architecture. Always read the label to ensure it is 100% pure, unsweetened tart cherry juice. Drink a small 8-ounce glass about 60 to 90 minutes before you go to sleep. Have you ever considered that the secret to waking up with a sharper mind might just be a sour drink before bed? Moving on to number 4. This is a food you probably already have in your refrigerator, but I guarantee almost nobody is eating it at the right time of day to maximize its brain healing potential. I am talking about Greek yogurt, But here's the catch. It must be full-fat Greek yogurt, and you need to eat it shortly before sleep. You see, it is a common misconception that as we age, our brains simply stop repairing themselves. What is actually happening is a phenomenon called anabolic resistance. This means our aging metabolism becomes less efficient at using the protein we consume during the day to repair our cells. However, researchers have discovered a remarkable loophole. Slow-digesting proteins consumed in the evening are processed completely differently by the aging body. Greek yogurt is packed with casein, a unique type of protein that digests very slowly over a period of 6 to 8 hours. When you eat it right before bed, you are essentially hooking your brain up to a slow, steady IV drip of essential amino acids throughout the entire night. Why is this critical? Because every single memory you cherish, the names of your loved ones, your favorite recipes, your life experiences, is physically stored in the synaptic connections between your brain cells. Those connections desperately require these protein-derived compounds to maintain their structural integrity while you sleep. In fact, studies have shown that older adults who consume this specific type of protein before bed demonstrated significantly improved cognitive flexibility. That is your brain's ability to seamlessly switch between different tasks and thoughts, a skill that is often one of the first to decline, not because of age, but because of evening nutrient starvation. Now listen carefully to this warning. Do not reach for the fat-free, heavily sweetened varieties, and absolutely do not add sugary granola to your bowl. You need the natural fat for optimal nutrient absorption, and any added sugar will spike your insulin levels, aggressively blocking the very overnight repair processes we are trying to activate. Stick to one simple cup of plain, full-fat Greek yogurt about 45 minutes before you go to sleep. Have you ever wondered what happens if you combine this slow-digesting protein with a specific type of fat that rebuilds the brain's physical structure? Let's move to number 3. I want you to listen very carefully to this one, because the science behind it is some of the most robust in all of nutritional neuroscience. We are talking about walnuts, not almonds, not peanuts, not a random can of mixed nuts, specifically walnuts. I had a patient named Margaret, a 74-year-old retired school teacher. She came into my office absolutely terrified. She was losing the thread of conversations and forgetting the names of friends she had known for decades. Her previous doctor had casually told her it was just normal aging and that nothing could be done. We added a small handful of walnuts to her nightly routine as part of a broader nutritional protocol. 8 weeks later, she sat in my office with tears in her eyes and told me, "It feels like someone turned a light back on." Why did this happen? It is not magic. It is cellular biology. Walnuts are the only nut with an exceptionally high concentration of DHA precursors. Your body takes these raw materials and converts them into docosahexaenoic acid, DHA, the specific fatty acid that makes up approximately 60% of your brain's structural fat. Think of DHA as the vital insulation around your brain's electrical wiring. After age 65, your body's ability to maintain these DHA levels plummets. Without adequate insulation, the signals traveling between your brain cells become slow, distorted, and inefficient. Eating walnuts right before bed is the masterstroke. As we discussed earlier, during deep sleep, your brain's glymphatic system flushes out toxic waste, including the amyloid plaques associated with cognitive decline. This critical flushing process requires healthy, flexible brain cell membranes to work properly, membranes built from the exact fatty acids that walnuts provide. By eating them at night, you are literally delivering the exact building materials your brain needs right when the overnight maintenance crew clocks in. Here is how you do it correctly. Eat about 14 walnut halves, which is roughly a small handful, 60 minutes before sleep. They must be raw or dry roasted. Do not eat them roasted in heavy seed oils or covered in salt, as the oxidized fats and high sodium will actively trigger inflammation and completely negate the benefits. Have you ever considered that a simple nut could be the key to unlocking the memories you thought were lost to time? Now we arrive at number 2, an ancient remedy that modern neuroscience is finally catching up with: raw honey. And I must be extremely specific here. The processed, heated honey sitting in a plastic bear in most grocery stores will not work and will actually harm your brain. We are talking exclusively about raw, unprocessed honey. I want to tell you about Robert, a 71-year-old retired engineer. Robert was a meticulous man who always prided himself on his sharp mind and memory for details. When he started forgetting his neighbors' names and losing his train of thought mid-sentence, he described it as the most terrifying and disorienting experience of his life. He felt his identity slipping away. We introduced raw honey as a cornerstone of his evening protocol. Just 10 weeks later, he returned to my office visibly emotional. He had started doing complex crossword puzzles again. His wife told me she finally had her husband back. Why is raw honey so incredibly powerful for an aging mind? It contains a rare and remarkable compound called pinosembrin. This flavonoid actively promotes neurogenesis, the growth of brand new brain cells, specifically in your hippocampus, which is the memory center of your brain. For decades, the medical community believed that as we age, we simply stop growing new brain cells. That is a complete myth. You just need to provide the right environment. Raw honey increases a protein called BDNF, which acts exactly like a miracle fertilizer for your neurons. Furthermore, one of the most destructive forces in an aging brain is elevated nighttime cortisol, the stress hormone. High cortisol literally kills hippocampal neurons and completely blocks the deep sleep stages where memories are stored. Taking just 1 to 2 teaspoons of raw honey 30 minutes before bed triggers a gentle, controlled insulin response that naturally lowers cortisol, calming the chemical storm in your brain. Here is the crucial warning. Never stir your raw honey into boiling hot water or tea. Heat above 40 degrees Celsius destroys the active healing enzymes in the pinosembrin. Mix it into a lukewarm herbal tea or have it right off the spoon. Have you ever thought that something so beautifully sweet could be the ultimate defense against cognitive decline? And wait until you see our #1 food. It is something you have likely been running away from for years. And now we have finally arrived at #1, the most powerful brain-repairing food you can possibly consume before bed. This is the exact food that most people over 70 have been firmly advised to avoid. Yet it is the most critical intervention for cognitive longevity I have ever encountered. I am talking about fatty fish, specifically wild-caught salmon, sardines, or mackerel. I know exactly what you are thinking right now. Eat fish before bed? Won't that cause indigestion? Haven't I been told to watch my cholesterol and avoid eating fat at night? Please put those fears aside for a moment, because the gap between outdated dietary advice and actual neurological science is massive. Your brain is approximately 60% fat by dry weight. The single most important fat making up that structure is DHA. Every single thought you have, every memory you retrieve, and every neuron in your brain relies on a membrane made largely of DHA. Here is the tragic reality of aging. As we pass our 60s, our liver's ability to convert plant-based omega-3s into usable DHA drops by up to 70%. By avoiding these healthy fats, you are literally starving your brain of its primary structural building block. A landmark study involving over 900 older adults found something absolutely astonishing. Those who consumed fatty fish regularly had brains that functioned the equivalent of 11 years younger than those who rarely ate it. 11 years. That is not a slight improvement. That is an entire decade of cognitive aging practically reversed. So why eat it in the evening? Because during deep sleep, your brain's internal cleaning system needs peak DHA levels in the bloodstream to function efficiently. Flexible, healthy brain cell membranes allow the glymphatic fluid to aggressively wash away the amyloid beta proteins directly linked to memory loss. Here is the proper protocol. Eat a small, 4 to 5 ounce serving about 2 hours before you go to sleep. This gives your body time to digest and begin releasing those essential fatty acids right as you drift off. Keep the preparation simple, baked, steamed, or straight from a high-quality can if you choose sardines. You must absolutely avoid heavy sauces, breading, or deep frying, which introduce inflammatory compounds that completely cancel out the benefits. Imagine giving your brain the exact structural material it needs to physically rebuild itself, all while you sleep peacefully. So how do we seamlessly put all of this together? I like to call it the evening brain protocol, and it is remarkably simple. Have your small serving of fatty fish about 2 hours before you plan to sleep. An hour later, enjoy your small handful of raw walnuts, perhaps alongside your tart cherry juice. And finally, about 30 minutes before your head hits the pillow, take 1 or 2 teaspoons of raw honey, either directly or stirred into your full-fat Greek yogurt. By doing this, you are providing your brain with DHA for physical, structural repair, BDNF stimulation to literally grow new memory neurons, and optimal glymphatic support to flush out the day's toxic waste. It is a beautiful, coordinated intervention that happens entirely while you sleep. Now, before we wrap up, I must emphasize something very important. While everything we discussed today involves natural, whole foods, your individual health profile is unique. Please print out this list or bring this video to your next doctor's appointment. Have an open conversation with your primary care physician about how these specific foods fit into your personal health picture, especially if you are managing conditions like diabetes, kidney issues, or taking specific prescription medications. Let me leave you with this final thought, something I tell my patients every single day. The notion that cognitive decline is simply an inevitable, unavoidable part of getting older is one of the most damaging myths in modern medicine. It only becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when we believe it and stop fighting back. You have the power to protect your memories, your sharpness, and your independence. If this information has opened your eyes today, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to Senior Health Compass. It tells me that you value this content and helps us reach millions of other seniors who are silently struggling and have never been given this vital information. Please share this video with a friend or a loved one who needs to hear it. And right now, drop a comment below. Which of these 5 foods surprised you the most, and which one are you going to add to your routine tonight? I personally read every single comment. Thank you for trusting me with your time. Keep protecting your brilliant mind, and I will see you in the next video.